There we are.
All right. Welcome to Analytics are for the nerds. We are in week 9, and we've got a few teams on bye. We've got 49ers, Lions, Jags, and Broncos, and we've got a lot to talk about this week.
Pick it up. You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up. You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up.
Still so good, that intro, isn't it? Like
it took me a few seconds to get to it too. Like, you know, we're perfect at not being perfect at the intro. But.
Yeah, we're still at that. Is this on video or picture? We're still doing that. Yes. We've got welcome, friends. Ryan and I had a big week. We saw each other at the Bills game. That was fun.
We did.
Great victory.
Actually, we went to a Frisbee dog show at halftime, and they just also happened to be playing a Bills game that night, so it worked out.
It really is the best, right?
Not to be outdone, but me and Ryan went out without you too for Halloween weekend, and we went as two old guys that don't belong in the bar with our costumes because it was awkward.
Yeah. I was mourning the death of Matthew Perry, and you guys were like, let's celebrate. So, you know, we all mourn differently. I get it. So we've got a big week. Louis fell back a few spots. His BBM team, you are now 12th, which is still great. You're still well beyond the 669,000 other participants. So
you sound like my mom when I came home with bad SAT scores. I'm joking. I didn't take the SATs, obviously. Obviously, I didn't get that far. But no, yeah, we pushed back a little bit. The crazy thing is it was such a weird, like, I got the 4 touchdown game from Howell, which, you know, I have no quarterbacks in that team. So like that, I just need a spike week each week. So I get that. And then just my running back room fell apart, and the wide receiver Olave, oh my God, the ball off of his helmet. Like I swear one guy on this team each week drops a touchdown pass. So, you know, each of those drop touchdown passes costing me about $100,000 as I move back. So right now I still like my spot, but yeah, injuries and stuff are catching up a little bit on there.
Who was your biggest performer and your worst guy on the team this week?
Howell was the one that saved me with the 4 touchdowns for sure. Yeah. Like I said, there was just a lot of duds between Olave. Even like I have Kelsey on that team, and without T Swift in the crowd, he obviously doesn't perform the same. So it was it was nice to see that I was still in the top 12 after what I considered a rough week. That means I'm hanging around.
Yeah. And top 12 is not a thing. It's usually top 10, just so you know. But
yeah, but we're going to extend it a little
bit. Okay, it's okay. We are still doing our congratulations, by the way. It's still a huge accomplishment. I'm your mom. A surprise. We still have our lovely listeners listener contest going on. If you like and share our YouTube page, our YouTube stream, that would be lovely. And if you, when you do that, you get subscribed to potentially be on our podcast. Then you can also pick one of our fantasy drafts that we do. Sounds fun. I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have. I know a few people that tweet at us regularly that are avid listeners that would be fun to have on. Yeah. So hopefully everybody does that, shares for us as we're trying to get our YouTube presence up. And want to bring on our guest?
Yes, we have a very exciting guest. We would like to welcome to the podcast Dave Klug from Football Guys. Dave, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for showing up. You look well and healthy. You look very good.
Very much so. Yeah, well rested, I should say. You were talking about how Halloween, you guys were the two guys that were too old to be at a bar. I was at my younger brother's bachelor party in Austin, Texas this weekend at a college town. So that's what I was all weekend. Just the old weird guy at the bar.
Austin, Texas is one of the coolest towns I've ever been in. I went earlier this year, and was that your first time there?
It was, yeah. And we actually we bought tickets kind of completely on a whim, like right before halftime to go to the UT game. So that was when I felt especially old looking around at these college kids. I remember what it's like being in a stadium, 19, 20 years old drinking, but looking around, I was like, where are your parents? Like, there should be chaperones here. You all look 12. Why are you drinking?
We literally said that to each other when we were out the other night. I go, it's just us getting older. I was like, there's no way this kid is 21, but it's not. It's not. 21-year-olds just look like 12-year-olds to us now, and it's literally so weird. The funny thing goes is like after 3 beers, I'm doing the whole like, oh man, I'm tired. We're too old for this. We got to get out of here. I look over to Ryan. Ryan goes, I don't know, man. Let's get started.
Yeah.
I was like,
getting into it.
It's totally just shifted the other way. But I'm glad we lived our youth for a day.
Yeah, we stretched out when we were going to be actually getting to the bar, and it turns out we even got there before the parties even started, because apparently you're not supposed to be out until 10:30, 11 o'clock, which was right when we were leaving. So
as you're leaving, there's a line out the door of people waiting to get in.
It really was. Really, we walked through lines to get in the door. We're like, nope, that's not it.
Yeah, if you didn't pay a cover, that means you're there too early. So
exactly.
There you go. Well, we've got a lot to talk about this week, guys. We have trade deadline fallout. The only fantasy relevant trades on deadline day were Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Lions and Joshua Dobbs to the Vikings. What are we feeling about each move?
I can take this one first.
I
think
I was like, go ahead.
I think Joshua Dobbs is good news for the pass catchers in Minnesota, because if we were looking at Jaron Hall for a whole season, a 5th-round rookie, we'd be really, really concerned kind of throwing a 5th-rounder into the fire mid-season. But Josh Dobbs, might not be the best quarterback, but he's shown that he can support multiple pass catchers. I think we could still see that same sort of pass rate. Kirk Cousins was on pace for over 600 pass attempts. I think Josh Dobbs can support that sort of volume there. So that's what I'm most excited about, is just that this does resuscitate some life into Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and maybe even KJ Osborne, who were all looking, potentially dead after Kirk Cousins went down.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think Dobbs is definitely serviceable. He'll keep that offense clicking. And to me, O'Connell seems like someone who wants his quarterback to fit to his system as opposed to the other way around. So I do think that it's going to be, to the extent that it can look like it. I mean, Kirk was playing probably one of the best seasons of his career, which is unfortunate with his injury. But, I think they'll be able to plug someone in and make it look at least maybe 75, 80% what it had been before. I think what the most interesting part of the trade deadline was not necessarily the moves that were made, but the moves that weren't made, right? The Chiefs not landing a big receiver, the Bills, I guess, in the same vein, not landing a big receiver, none of those big names really moving. And then, Derrick Henry, right? Still staying in Tennessee. What is that going to look like with Will Levis now at the helm, likely for the rest of the season? Although, Tannehill is going to be sitting there, and at some point they can and maybe will turn back to him. There's a lot of, a lot could have changed, I think, with some of those moves. But I'm still buying Tajay Spears. Just give me an opportunity to talk about him, and I will. So, still look to buy him. Not just on injury concerns for Derrick Henry on holding up on a full workload throughout the rest of the season, but he's already getting that pretty good 1B role in Tennessee. So, I still would like I like his outlook for the rest of the season.
Only you would find a way to bring the trade deadline back to Tajay Spears somehow, so you can talk about Tajay Spears. But I agree 100% on Dobbs with Dave, and I honestly, like, even in single quarterback main events and such, I'm trying to get him, I think, right now, because I'm Ryan, more than anybody, like, I'm system over player a lot, and I think he's going to step into that system and, like Dave said, throw the ball just as much. I think they're going to try to just keep that offense going. and he might not do it as efficiently as Cousins, but I mean, the big thing about Cousins is everybody wants to say how good is he really, and maybe he wasn't. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was just a product of the system. So I'm really excited to see what he does there, and I think that's a really great move for the skill players, of course, but Dobbs himself, I think, now has some value. And the Peoples-Jones things, real quick, I'll just reference it, and I don't know if you guys have thoughts on it. The only thing that I really got from that trade is not so much an increase in Peoples-Jones value as it is an indictment of what they feel like with Jameson Williams right now. He's dropping some big passes. He just seems like he's behind the game. So I don't think that trade so much means to go pick up DBJ everywhere, but I think Williams might even be droppable at this point.
Yeah, I think it also means that Marvin Jones probably isn't going to come back. He talked about how he was stepping away from football. We didn't know if that was a temporary thing or a long-term thing, but I think that maybe means that Marvin Jones is done for the year, because at this point in his career, Marvin Jones isn't pulling, 8 targets a game like he was a few years ago. He's just kind of stretching the field and clearing out the underneath stuff, and I think that's pretty much the role that Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to step into.
I 100% agree. I think that Detroit has a preference for those. I mean, Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, DPJ types that can just move the chains. I actually kind of like their receiving room, with the number one dog in Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then obviously, you still have Jameson. Maybe he can stretch the field for you on a couple of plays, keep the defense honest. But, they're doing just fine over there in Detroit. And I think rest of season, you still have to really like their chances.
And can we just do one little thing, because it's a Bills Nation? And then it wasn't a trade, but other big deadline news was the Bills signed Leonard Fournette. And I don't know if anyone saw that fantastic clip where Fournette went up to Josh Allen and told him he sucked in a previous game. That was fun. Any thoughts on that lovely
I'll go real quick on Fournette. I, more than most people, see a really big role for him coming down the road here. I think he is, knowing McDermott as well as we do, he relies on experience. He has always shown a little bit of hesitancy with Cook. The thing that sucks about Cook right now is that they're going to want Fournette out of the backfield and catching the ball, even though Cook was doing a decent job. But Fournette blocks a lot better than Cook, so he's going to get that third down play, and he's going to get every goal line carry. They haven't shown Cook to even have one carry. Murray was that guy. He was being inefficient at it. I'm all in on Fournette, and if I had a bet, he has more fantasy points. I wouldn't say if we didn't start this week, let's just go week 10 on. I bet you he has more fantasy points than James Cook. That's my kind of hot take.
I'm completely with you, man. Leonard Fournette, his whole career, he has just been a high-value touch vacuum because, like you said, he's such a good pass blocker. He's a surprisingly good pass catcher as well. He gets the goal line work, and I think that he just takes so much value away from James Cook. I mean, James Cook has been a good football player. I think what he's brought to the Bills offense has been great, but what he's done in fantasy has been a disappointment given his ADP. He's given up back-end RB2 numbers right now, and now he kind of falls into that, am I even starting him RB3 type of role once Fournette's up to speed, because Fournette's going to take a lot of the passing down work, all of the goal line work, and there's just going to be scraps left over for James Cook.
Yeah, doesn't Fournette just seem like a guy that Sean McDermott is going to love? I mean, he's a great pass protector. He's great at the goal line. He may actually be good, right? He still can catch passes. Yes, he didn't have great numbers his last year in Tampa, but neither did Rachaad White. And look at what he's doing this year with, I don't know how much improved that offensive line is, but at least he can move the ball now with Mayfield, right? So, I think the move is good for the Bills in real life. In fantasy, I also expect him to take some of the work away from Cook. I wouldn't write Cook off completely. I do think that he's still going to have a role. But look, the Bills have shown that they want to use 2 running backs, just like most other teams in the league. So, right now, I think it's likely that Fournette carves out a pretty significant role, at least scoring fantasy points throughout the rest of the season.
All right. Last year in week 17, this is going to be a fun one. Deep Sleeper League winners. Last year in week 17, Jarrett Stidham was QB3. JaMychal Hasty, was he RB14? Is that real?
14, yeah.
Yeah, there was that. We had Jalen Naylor, Shi Smith, Richie James Jr., and Tyquan Thornton were all running back ones. Brock Wright was tight end 3. Who's going to be some of the guys that can win you your championship in week 17? And then some players that no one's talking about.
Ryan,
Ryan, you want to go first?
Sure. I think I'm going to start just with any of the backup running backs in running situations that you want to own. I know that's a cop-out, but this is what happens, right, in the last couple of weeks of the year, and you have to decide between starting Ezekiel Elliott, a couple of years ago, and Royce Freeman, or just some of these other guys that seemed like must starts in situations that normally you wouldn't trust them, but because of the volume and because of the matchup per se, right, you're looking to play them, right? And then going off of that point, I'm looking at, so if we're talking about playoff schedules, Tennessee and Houston match up twice. So even for potential, correlation plays, looking at guys like Nico Collins, Tank Dell right now, you can probably get, for the first time all year because people might be a little bit down on him. So I'm looking to get some of the guys from Houston, Stroud, even if you need a guy that has a potential, QB1 upside for the rest of the year. That's not a deep, sleeper in the sense that he's obviously he's been a QB2, high-end QB2 for the first part of this year. But just looking at teams that are either going to have good matchups in the playoffs. I know the Bengals also have a really good playoff schedule for wide receivers in particular. So, looking to target guys either like Higgins or even a Boyd, right? I mean, you can get him for nothing. Who's to say that he's not going to, have a big, couple of playoff weeks. So targeting good matchups. And for me, that's, I think, the key. And then handcuffing the running backs in situations that, if there was an injury, you want to jump on that right away.
Ryan, that was the perfect setup. You could have talked about Tajay Spears there, the backup running back going up against Houston. Like, that's the deep league winner right there. Tajay Spears gets his chance week 17 against Houston.
Yeah. And another
I've said it a couple times, and I'm a big Tajay Spears. I 39% ownership on Underdog for my
Love
team.
it.
So
yeah, I'm a big fan of Spears as well. So I like that.
Do you got a guy that you're thinking of there, Dave?
I don't know how deep you want to go. I really do like, if we're looking at the week 17 matchups, I think that game going on in Detroit in Dallas could be a shootout against Detroit. So again, Pollard is the obvious guy, but maybe Rico Dowdle has to step into a role in week 17 and can really do something. But I'm not going to go quite that deep. It's so hard to speculate that far in advance. I am trying to notice a trend right now, and I think that Quentin Johnston, the guy that most people have just completely written off for dead at this point in the season, we saw them make a concerted effort as early as last week to get him the ball. He set season highs in targets and receptions and yards. But what really jumped out to me more than just the game log and, the numbers that he put up was that they were really changing how they were using him. We saw this guy when he was at TCU. They were getting him scheme touches on slants and screens to get the ball in his hands and let him do things after the catch. And then in this Kellen Moore offense, there isn't a ton of that. They want the receivers getting deep downfield, stretching defenses. And last week against Chicago, they started giving him some of those screens, and we saw what he could do after the catch. So it's going to involve an entire change in philosophy for Kellen Moore to do this, but they invested a first-round pick in Quentin Johnston, and they haven't been playing to his skill set so far. So I'm hoping that last week was a sign of things to come. I'm not a huge fan of Quentin Johnston, but I think that he does bring a fun element to that offense, what he can do after the catch. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye this week to see if they keep trying to use him in that way. And if they do, he could have a really, really high ceiling, and he could be that potential league winner late in the year.
Yeah, I'm going to go real deep here, and that's only because on some of these deeper dynasty leagues I'm in, they're really huge rosters, and you're forced to kind of look for that second or third guy that might be it. But hey, Ellie, name the names. Like, any of those names were not even we wouldn't even thought about mentioning them in week 9 as a possibility. So like there was a lot of guys that came out of nowhere. So I like James Robinson here a little bit. No, he's only signed to the Packers practice squad. This is more on the fact that I think Aaron Jones is done. And with just one injury to either him or Dylan, I can see James Robinson. I mean, he's had decent numbers, right, in the past. He's had successful seasons. if they stay relevant, even if they don't, I don't think it really matters. I think Jones is like a real dead asset. I mean, if he is on any of my squads, he's staying on the bench until he shows that he could have another good game. And again, shown the injury history between him and Dillon. Maybe Robinson gets that next opportunity if there is a chance. And then we talked about quarterbacks, the Dobbs. Is it out of the realm of possibility to think a guy like Taylor Heineke can, be somebody that, especially in these big tournaments like the main event, if you're down a bunch of points in the last week and no one's going to start him, you maybe take a chance if he's still starting, if he's still, he's mobile, he's going to score some points. The offense obviously has weapons. I don't trust Arthur Smith, but if it ever came together for him, I think he has a lot more high upside than Ritter did. No one has to tell me that I'm wrong.
Look, I mean, clearly you're looking at upside for the passing offense in Atlanta. I don't think it could be much worse than it was with Ritter, and he's shown a propensity to throw the ball down the field. I saw somebody with a funny tweet about how he's after his career's over, he could just simply post a weekly article or a yearly article about what team is going to turn over at quarterback, because he's correctly predicted that for the past couple of years with Washington and now with Atlanta. He knows who's going to get benched and he'll get an opportunity because, look, he's got that kind of moxie to him. He can go out there and throw the ball down the field. So I'm excited to see what happens, especially if London is out this week. Maybe it's Kyle Pitts week or Jonnu Smith in all likelihood, because Arthur Smith is the coach.
And I'll go back to what you were saying about James Robinson. He's another guy that people look at the efficiency metrics from last year. And I mean, he looked terrible, whether it was in Jacksonville or New York. He just didn't look like himself. But I think maybe we have to start looking at kind of a 2-year window to come back from the Achilles tear, because it was the same thing with Cam Akers. The year he came back earlier than expected, looked awful on that Super Bowl run, looked bad the next year. And now 2 years removed from that injury, he suddenly got a little more juice left. Same thing with Deonta Foreman. He tore his Achilles. It took 2 years until after that Achilles in Tennessee for him to look like himself again. So now here we are, same song and dance with James Robinson, acting like he doesn't have it anymore. But now he's 2 years removed from the injury. We might see him, if he gets the opportunity, to look like the James Robinson of old.
That's a good take, Dave. I just thought that was
Thank you.
It's also interesting how many players now are coming up with Achilles injuries. I feel like it seems a little bit more frequent than it has in the past. But
there's been 7 already this year.
Yeah. Thank you, Aaron Rodgers. Right. Speaking of leading us off with strong things, we're going to talk about our cats and dogs of the week.
Trying to get our 2 boys ready to carry them to golf tournament before practice, right? 12 cats live across the road. Our door's open. Screen's broke. We need to get a new screen door, but the screen's broke, so you can come in through the screen, but you can't get back out of it. I turn and look, there's a little kitty cat in our kitchen. So I said, "What are you doing in here, little kitty cat?" By that time, the cat turns, tries to get back out. That screen won't go that way. Cat starts going, meow, all crazy. And I told our players, we need more dogs. Bo's barking in the back. I have to go shut Bo up. Mel's like, "What's going on?" I said, "There's a cat in the house." "Cat in the house?" I said, "Yeah, there's a cat in the house." So I told our players, I tried to let it out the front door. Meow, meow, the cat's still going crazy in there. And I told our players, you need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. Be a dog. We don't need no meows. We don't need no cats. We need more dogs.
We don't need no meows. Speaking of meows, I was talking to Louie earlier before this started, and I'll go about this. I think there's now we're in week 9. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there, but this player I don't think is going to play anymore. And I'll just give my cat of the week, and you can give both if you'd like when we do a rotate. But I just really dislike Jimmy G, and I'm glad this will now be his 6th bench game since starting with Las Vegas, and that is despicable. And he's garbage. And just because you won 5 games in your start and then got injured, in San Fran doesn't mean you're good, and stop looking in the mirror, bro. Okay.
Did you drop a DM that wasn't answered? That felt
Maybe.
that felt very personal.
Let's talk about today. Josh McDaniels got fired. Was it deserved? I mean, the Raiders are really bad. They're not fun to watch. They're really yes, but it's also it's not always about the toothpaste. I'll just say that when people, it's not always about the toothpaste. I just think they need to reevaluate. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's good. I know. Okay. Anyway,
I'm excited to see. I think that all they want to do is tank at this point, but like. How great would it be if O'Connell just came in and was like decent enough to like win them a few games and just totally screw? Like that's the worst.
It would be Rich Bisaccia all over again. That's exactly what Bisaccia did a few years ago. Like they tried tanking with Bisaccia, and then he won games, and he got the fan base and the players behind him. Yeah, I can't stand McDaniels. The way you feel about Jimmy Garoppolo is how I feel about Josh McDaniels. Thought he never should have been hired. How he ever got another opportunity after his stint in Denver just blows my mind.
Yes, it's a great fire, and then good for Vegas having to spend 4 more years of salary on him. Like,
well, they're still paying Gruden for the next 2.
They're going to be paying 3 head coaches. That's great.
Well, it's just like when the Bills, they were paying Rex for a while and a couple other people, Russ Brandon, and you know what? Maybe they're going to be good soon. So Raiders are going to have a look at the Super Bowl in like 4 years from now, probably.
Yeah, we'll all be dead, but that's okay. Anyway, does our special guest Dave? Would you like to give us your? Should we do cats and then do dogs? We want to do it that way.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it that way.
All right, Dave. Who's your cat? Is it me frozen, Dave?
Oh no, Dave's frozen.
All right, it's a good froze. How about we'll do Ryan and then when Dave
Ryan first. Yeah,
sure. All right. So my cat of the week is Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's the second most projected points, so this definitely meets the definition of a cat. I think. Look, he's very talented. There's no question. The offensive line is absolutely terrible in New York, and they're making a switch back over to Daniel Jones. And if they were, I mean, yes, he's coming off an injury, but I just don't know how much that offense is going to be humming altogether. And so I think if it's not, they're going to need to rely more on the passing game. So his best out is potentially on a lot of checkdowns and screen passes, but otherwise I think he's going to underperform this week. So cat of the week is Saquon.
All right. And Dave, you were frozen, but you're back alive. So would you like to give us your cat?
I got a few I could go with, but let me go with Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is a guy who has just been, if you drafted him this year, you're feeling great about it. He's been putting up, I think he's wide receiver 16 on the year, but looking at Aiden O'Connell, who's going to be playing quarterback for the Raiders this week. Last time he started, he only threw 4 targets, Jacoby Myers' way, for 2 receptions and 33 yards. Meanwhile, Devontae Adams pulled 13 targets and 8 receptions when he was injured for the majority of the game. I think that it just isn't a good match. Aiden O'Connell is a gunslinger. He likes to push the ball deep downfield, and Jacoby Myers isn't really a guy that can beat man coverage or a guy that is going to win these contested catches. That's what Devontae Adams does. Jacoby Myers is really predicated on getting those timing routes, and he had that connection with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not going to have that connection with Aiden O'Connell. So even though Jacoby Myers is a very good player, and he's been a great find this year in fantasy, I have to be really, really desperate to even think about starting him this week.
Hot take.
Yeah, my cat this week, and again, I kind of spoiled it earlier. I wish I would have came up with another one here, as I forgot that I would be talking about James Robinson, but Aaron Jones. And I don't even know if I can call him much of a cat because I don't know how many people are going to be starting him at this point. But my good friend and partner Mike Shope, in one of our big time dynasty leagues last week, he pushed hard to start him. I pushed hard against him. We obviously made the right choice there. And this week he's like, well, maybe you're right. Maybe it's just dead. I don't think he comes back from this. I think the guys, when they hit the cliff, they just fall off quickly. Dylan's not looking horrible in the little bit of work that he's getting, and Jones has not shown efficiency in loved as well as like catching as many passes as Rodgers would, targets and everything. He's just not getting it when he's out there, and he looks like a shell of himself. So I'm going to go with Aaron Jones and kind of take a cop out.
All right. Now for our dogs of the week, Ryan, would you like to tell us your dog?
Sure. So my dog of the week is Michael Wilson. This is a bit of a deeper play here, but there are a lot of things working against him. So there's probably not a lot of people who are trying to start him. But I'll say this. We don't know anything yet about Clayton Tune, who's going to be starting. And when there's uncertainty, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing for a rookie who's already in the past couple of weeks started to generate more targets. Has a couple of games, where his average depth of target is actually pretty good. He has some good underlying numbers that project well for the rest of the season. So, I know a lot of people in a couple of weeks would want to start him when Kyler Murray's back, but who's to say that instead of Marquise Brown getting, the points against a tough Browns defense, he's going to be matched up with Denzel Ward probably, more likely than not. So why not get the guy that might be able to operate more underneath there in the slot? Josh Downs had a big game a couple of weeks ago against the Cleveland Browns secondary. So, why can't it be Michael Wilson this week? So there's my pick.
There you go. Nice. Dave, would you like to give us your dog?
Yeah, I'll go with Zach Moss, a guy that a lot of people are probably thinking about benching, because if you start looking at the trends in this Indianapolis backfield, Moss's snap share has gone down for 5 consecutive weeks now. Jonathan Taylor is starting to take over, but even with a limited workload, Moss has still been looking really good. He's still providing fantasy value. Just last week, 66 yards and a touchdown against a pretty good New Orleans defense. Now going up against Carolina. Carolina is one of the worst defenses, or I should say best defenses, for opposing running backs to play against. And he's had 10 targets in the last 3 weeks. So he still is holding on to some of that passing down work, which really kind of elevates his ceiling. And this is kind of crazy. I don't know why, but he out-touched Jonathan Taylor in the red zone last week 4-1. So like I said, this Carolina defense is a really nice opportunity for him. I think Jonathan Taylor is the obvious start, top 5, top 10, wherever you want to rank him. But Moss is a guy that is still inside my top 20 this week, starting him ahead of guys like James Cook, Aaron Jones, who you mentioned, Rashad White, Chuba Hubbard, Ramondre Stevenson. It's pretty tough for me to bench Zach Moss. I mean, he has looked like a great running back this year, which I don't know what happened, why he couldn't figure it out in Buffalo, but he looks like a dog this year.
Yeah. I'll tell you, and that running, I think they both could be top, at least running back 1 or 2. They're going to be in the top 24, both of them this week. And I love that matchup. So like that a lot. All right. I got to preface that my dog would not have been considered a dog earlier in the year. And as someone that has an $800 ticket on him to lead the league in receiving yards previous to the season, Garrett Wilson has finally got a great matchup this week. Zach Wilson has not shown much improvement, but if you're going to show anything, it's this matchup here. I think that they're going to know how to play this here. Brees has taken a really big step in the game plan, but they just can't stop the pass. So I see Garrett Wilson finally having a big game. Maybe he can get about 800 to 900 yards receiving this game to catch me up on this bet. $800 out the window and like literally when did Rodgers go down? 10 minutes into the game. I was like, oh, all right, well, that was fun. I literally was on the plane home from Vegas where I placed the bet and watching that game on the plane when Rodgers went down, and said, oh, well, that was a good call. So, but I do like him. All jokes aside, I like him a lot this week, and I think I think he could be a really good play top, and I think he could be a wide receiver 1.
Excellent. So we are going to quote the very wise Dave Klug, who is our guest this week. You tweeted today, I didn't think I'd be pondering a Clayton Tune or Taylor Heinicke start-sit dilemma at any point this season, but here we are in week 9. So yeah, week 9 has turned something. We turned a page, or we did something. But saying that, we're going to now do a little fun round of name as many. We'll do a little nice round robin of name all the starting quarterbacks that have played so far. I have the list and it's memorized. So we're going to go one by one. I will not be playing. I will be the judge and jury of this. But NFL quarterbacks who have started the
Okay.
game this season.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're up to 40 something at this point, right?
Yeah.
I think we got to be up to 4. Do you have the number? So we know when we're gonna end.
I have the list, and it's about like 43, 44.
All right, you let us know if we get through them all. I have a feeling we're not, but let's try it.
All right, just don't do it like super fast, because but okay.
Yeah.
So get to rock paper scissors. Who goes first?
No, just start it off, and we'll just go in a circle.
All right. So I know, I'll start it off just because I have alphabetical order. Josh Allen.
Okay.
He is the first one on the list of A. So just, All right. Do you want to go Ryan, Dave, Louie?
Yeah, we'll do it like that.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Go with Will Levis.
I'll go with Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go with Mac Jones.
Tyson Bagent.
I'll go with Zach Wilson.
I'll go PJ Walker.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Deshaun Watson.
Nice. Lamar Jackson.
Mac Jones.
Said already.
Oh,
Said already,
wow.
right?
Doubling up already.
Dave's out. Dave's out. Herbert.
Yep.
Joe Burrow.
Tyrod Taylor.
Daniel Jones.
Matthew Stafford.
Trevor Lawrence.
CJ Stroud.
Desmond Ritter.
Bryce Young.
Derek Carr, the first.
Baker Mayfield.
Kenny Pickett.
Jalen Hurts.
Matthew Stafford.
Already said.
I gave you an early freebie earlier. Jimmy G was on there.
I did, I know.
Who do we miss? But I know
Mahomes, Brock Purdy, Geno Smith. We said we've got Russell Wilson, Clayton Tune, Dak Prescott, Aiden O'Connell, Jordan Love. Did we say Sam Howell?
All right, stop rubbing it in. I get
Yeah.
it.
All
better.
right, fine.
All right.
I just wanted to get to the I thought we would get through it, but
when you guys were supposed to know sports? No, I'm joking.
No, I know. I can't believe I won. I'm the stoner of the group, so.
Yeah, I was trying to dig deep with the deep polls. I was going to listen to your guys.
I got sloppy. I was going by division for a while, and then I was just like Matt Stafford. I
legitimately started crisscrossing divisions, knowing that's what you were doing.
That was like a Jeopardy picking the category, not mind mess. Like that was terrible.
I was trying to get all the onesies out of the way right off the bat.
I was looking at a blank sheet of paper, so I was like, Right, perfect. Speaking of perfect, this week we lost not a friend to the show, but a friend to our hearts, Matthew Perry. So in honor of a man that brought us so much joy, we are doing a 90s sitcom character draft. Louis looks like he wants to talk about Matthew Perry.
That was what I was going to tell you before. I was heartbroken. Like, whatever. We all have those specific people that just like hit us harder. Definitely him. Big Friends fan. Like, fell asleep to the show for like 5 years straight. Like, I'm not even joking. That was like my sleep music.
He's a stoner again, everyone, just so you know.
I mean, I'm not saying that I listened to a lot of it, but it was on the back screen. And so right away, I realized I'd always wanted to read his book. And so then I got the audiobook, and he narrates it. And I started listening to it that night, and waterworks. It's rough. That if you're going to say, hey, let's this is going to make me want to read about him, you get the paperback and read, because listening to his voice and talking, it's just so tough. But yeah, real cool. Like, really, one of my favorites, and he would have been a first round pick for me, but we are just, because we're doing it in his honor, we're going to disqualify him, and we're also disqualifying Doug Heffernan, because Dave, I know you probably don't know this, but Ryan finds a way to mention Kevin James somehow in like 90% of these drafts. So right away, listen, it didn't even start till like 98, 99. It's had more years in the 2000s. It's not a 90s sitcom. So he's getting disqualified. And we still got our quota. We still said his name once on the podcast. So
yeah, you're right. It's a really good point when you say that King of Queens started in 1998, yet it's not a 90s sitcom. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, I told you it had to live most of its life in that day. Shut up, Ryan. He's not getting in the draft.
All right.
All right. I'm going to do a randomizer here.
While he's doing that, I just want to point out to the listeners, if you really do want to support one of your favorite actors, buy their book when they're alive so they get the money for it, not what a scumbag. Why is money? What a scumbag.
My contribution. I don't even think he liked his family. I'm finding a lot about it in the book. So that's
Morrison, original Dateline.
All right.
Yeah,
Jesus.
anyway.
All right. Let me get this randomizer. Allie, you got the number 1 pick.
Oh.
I'm number 2. Dave, you're number 3. And Ryan, you're on the back end at 4. And we will snake. Allie, I always have to ask your permission, but I think this is a deep one. Can we do 6 rounds instead of 4? I feel like there's a lot.
I'm game. Is everyone game for?
Everyone game for 6 rounds? Everybody do 6 rounds?
I think I could dig deep.
All right. Yep. I think we could get through 6 rounds quickly. We'll blow through the last 2 rounds, but go ahead, Allie, start us off.
I always have to preface this when I pick a lady as a feminist. I'm gonna pick number 1, Seinfeld Elaine as my number 1 sitcom character.
It's a great pick.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus is a genius, so amen to her.
She wasn't the top one for me on that show even. So the fact that she's 1-1 on this a little bit, but hey.
No way. She definitely is one. For me, yeah. I 100% agree with
and as a comic who is a lady, Julie Louis-Dreyfus comedy has shaped my my career.
Doing this podcast.
Let's bring it on, everyone.
All right. I'm 2, right? I have a pretty clear. All right. Because you just went Seinfeld, I'm not going to go my Seinfeld character, but I will go. I think Al Bundy needs to go in the first round of a 90s sitcom character draft. He's still like, he's got that thing on Twitter about the 13 touchdowns. Like that's still a famous thing that everybody mentions and talks about. What is it? 20 years later. I think everybody knows Al Bundy. And we're 20, 30 years since the show was on. So I'll go Al Bundy 1 2 and be very happy about it.
I think that's a good one. I'll go with what I think is probably like the most quintessential 90s character, Will Smith from Fresh Prince. That's a pretty strong pick at 103.
That's great. I mean, he
saved Will, and you're right, after Jada Pinkett's book too.
Yeah. Stop reading people's books. Will's definitely like he could have been 1-1 here easily. It was probably the funniest show in the 90s. I think like consistently like real adult humor. I thought it was probably the funniest. So love that there. Ryan for 2.
All right. George Costanza is my first of 2. I mean, I would have taken Elaine if I had the choice. So props to Allie for that great selection. But George is, I think, easily the second best character in that show, if not the best. Perfect character, so much so that it made it difficult on Jason Alexander to get other roles. But I do think he's a very funny guy. And easy first pick for me. Second one, I'm going to go with Topanga because everyone had a crush on Topanga. And I mean, it's Topanga. I don't have to really say much, right? It's just everyone knows. It's like, you're picking Topanga. That makes a lot of sense. Got it. Yeah. That's it.
I had her on my list, so
yep.
That's could go.
So this might be a little bit of a reach, but I grew up loving Home Improvement and Tim the Toolman Taylor. Just loved him growing up, so I'll take him here.
I love that pick. He is on my list, and it's funny. He's the first one mentioned out of this group of 4 that I have together. That there's a very common theme of like people you don't want to root for anymore. Right? Like they were really good 90s sitcom characters, and it's a little like I'm like, do I want to draft? There's some character issues with them. Not at the time, but there's definitely some character issues in the first few rounds of this draft. Which is gonna get me off of my next guy, and instead, I think I need to go Homer Simpson here, and I only because everybody knows Homer. People are you say Doe, what you're referring to. There's not an 80-year-old woman or a 5-year-old kid that doesn't know it. Homer Simpson was definitely worthy of a pick here.
Okay. I'm doing something very brave, and I'm going to go same show just because I feel like someone's going to take this character. I'm going to go Wayne Knight's character of Newman in Seinfeld. Okay.
I like it. He was on my list. I liked it. You're really crushing. You're really crushing the Seinfeld the genre.
I always pick weird, and then no one picks me, and I'm like, what? Let's play the game, right?
You got another one.
Oh gosh. Okay. Then we're gonna keep it fun. We're gonna go Frasier Crane and Frasier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was a bad pick. Everyone's face. Oh man.
No, here's the thing with Frasier. When I'm doing my research on this and talking about it today, thinking about it today, I think he belongs on this list. I never gave the show the time, so like I feel like most people feel like he belonged on this list. I personally did not feel like he could be on my team because I did not invest enough in the show. Great character on Cheers, which but
and also he is in the Real Housewives family. His ex-wife Camille Grammer was in the Real Housewives Beverly Hills, and how it all comes back together. All right, there we go.
I have to go. The only thing I messed up here is I went animated with Homer, but I really want this person, and I think I could have waited till the 6th round. But I'm going Daria. Daria was the funniest cartoon. Like it was like emo before emo. Like I loved it.
That's not a sitcom.
It's a sitcom. 100% Daria is listed as a sitcom. If you look it up right now, it's an American sitcom. I promise you. Because
you know what else is listed as a 90s sitcom?
I also
look it up? King of Queens.
I also watched a whole episode of Daria today to be reminded of how great the show was. And
all right,
hilarious.
I'll take it.
That's fine. It was funny.
Right,
I'm going Daria.
All right.
If he gets Daria, I get Doug Heffernan. It's a little.
All right, I'm realizing we got there's no rhyme or reason to where you guys are picking. I gotta really I'm up right now, right? It's
yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go. This was tail end of the 90s. It might be more 2000s than anything else. The Norm Show, Norm Macdonald. The show itself, I gotta be honest, wasn't that great, but he played himself, and Norm Macdonald, the actual person, was just amazing. So I'm more so picking Norm Macdonald than I am Norm Macdonald from the Norm Show, but I'll take him here. This is about remembrance for comedians, after all, right?
Yeah, no, that is really good. I like it. No,
great pick. All right, so I'm up for 2.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go with my first pick. I'm going to go with Robert Barone, actually, and Everybody Loves Raymond. It's a bit risky. It's a bit controversial, but to me, he's the funniest. I mean, Frank is great. Marie is great. Ray is great. But just like in Seinfeld, how, it's usually not Jerry, he's not usually everyone's first pick. It's somebody else. That's why I think Robert is just, he has so many great lines. He's got that deep voice. He's got those, complex with the big brother, little brother thing. It's funny to me. So Robert Barone is the first of 2.
That was my next pick, by the way. That's
going to be.
I was going to take him next. That's a good one.
Look,
great pick there.
Good value drafting then. So My next pick is probably not going to be somebody on everyone's list, but I can't afford to not get him because I love this show. It only had one season, and I only saw it. I didn't see it in the 90s. I saw it afterwards on Netflix. Freaks and Geeks. But I'm going to take Daniel Desario. That's James Franco character in that show. That whole show, there's so many characters that you could take. It's like a travesty that they didn't make more than one season of that show because it was just so perfect. But maybe that's what makes it perfect. So I'm happy to get somebody from that show. Really, I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. So many stars in that show. Jason, what's that?
Siegel.
Siegel. Thank you. Yeah, that guy. So not drafting him, drafting James Franco. But yeah, that's my pick.
Great pick.
Thanks.
I love it.
There's another show that was kind of tail end of the 90s, but I think it still counts, aired in 1998. I'll go with Kitty Foreman, who I think was the best character from that 70s show. Just hilarious. Every single time she's in any scene, she just steals the scene. There's a few other questionable guys from that show that I could have gone with. I'm going to take the safe choice with Kitty Foreman.
I've noticed that's dropped a few people down most boards here. There's some on my board that, skill wise, really up there, but I have to worry about.
I already went with Tim Taylor. I couldn't,
That's as much as you can go. Was Kevin Spacey ever on a sitcom? All right, so all right, my guy here is gonna be on Friday nights. Everybody loved TGIF, and everybody, but Friday nights are hectic when you're a young teen or kid, and I would be doing stuff in the background, not really going watching fully these episodes. But when Mr. Feeney went to sit down in the backyard, you knew to stop because you were about to learn some shit. Right? Like Mr. Feeney taught me more than my own dad did. I mean, he was a deadbeat, but still, like Mr. Feeney taught me so much shit. And I think he should have been a first rounder. I thought maybe one of you guys needed him more because he's helped me so much already. So I let him slide. But if you're going to not let him go to this round, I got to take him.
He still didn't help you as much as Topanga did, but
Topanga did help me a lot more from the ages of 13 to 18.
Okay. According to clickbait, Mr. Feeney is a swinger, according to most clickbait. So the more you know. So maybe he did help. I'm gonna go deep cuts on mine. I love. Okay, I'm gonna go. David Spade's character Dennis Finch in Just Shoot Me.
That's great.
Okay, that's a classic one. And then we're gonna go with a Canadian superstar in my eyes, Dave Foley as Dave Nelson in News Radio.
Both really good. Both underrated shows. Both really funny, and both I've turned on in the last probably 6 months and still funny. That's how you know a show is good, because even Friends, which I love and seen 1,000 times, but some of the humor, how did I laugh at that 30 years ago? Those two shows I think are super smart written and great. All right, fifth pick. It was my favorite show, so I can't leave here without a friend. Obviously Chandler would be everybody's number one. If we're going to disqualify him, I think I even have I think my number two is not most people's two. I'm a Ross guy. I love his awkwardness. His humor was hilarious. I feel like I just feel like the My Sandwich, the pivot, some of the best friend scenes of all time involved him. And I'm going to go with Ross and Friends and get my second favorite guy in that show.
Great.
Is this the final round that we're in now, or do we have one more after this?
You get one more after.
All right.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Uncle Jesse here from Full House. Just the most affable, lovable character on the show. I think he aged well. No concerns we have with Uncle Jesse now in the year 2023. So I could feel safe and sleep well at night knowing that I took Uncle Jesse here.
That's great.
All right. So similar vein, I'm looking at the cast list for this show, and I'm like, I don't think I can draft any of these people. It's like it must have been just. every single one of these people is now like involved in some level of scandal to varying degrees. But that 70s show, I'm gonna go.
I went with Kitty.
Right. You have to be very careful with who you're picking. So I'm going to go with Eric Foreman. I got to have somebody from that show. I think he's the safest of the picks that are remaining. So I'm going to just choose him. And he's also, I mean, he's great. He's got that just like, deadpan, humor, just very dry sense of humor. He's good. I always have to have somebody funny. So actually all these people are funny. So I guess I have a lot of them, except for Panka. She's just, there's other reasons. But, and I need a ruling. Does South Park count? I mean, if
yes.
I heard that.
I consider
South Park is not a sitcom.
How is South
it
Park
is.
not
it's an animated sitcom.
It's an
I think
animated sitcom.
It's still.
Because it would have picked Cartman is why.
Well, that's who I'm picking. That is who I'm picking.
I'm fine with it.
All right, so I have to have Cartman then. Look, there are. I mean, all of them are funny in my opinion, but he's just the most unique of the characters, and I mean, I think it's a great show. It does have a lot of like nuance to it, some of the writing, but it's funny. So yeah, I'll take Cartman.
The only thing I'll let the listeners decide. I won't veto your pick, but I don't know. I don't know how much 90s run it had. Only maybe what was it, 98, 99?
Handful of episodes, yeah.
Yeah. So
but show really peaked in like 2001, 2002.
I think so too. But we'll let the listeners in the poll penalize you. We won't penalize you here. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, I started off with Will Smith, and I'm double tapping uncles here. I went with Uncle Jesse with my last pick. I'm going with Uncle Phil in this one. We've done a lot of like funny characters so far throughout this show, but Uncle Phil just, I personally grew up with an absent father, so Uncle Phil was just like the ultimate guy that just stepped up to be that father figure. So Uncle Phil was a really important piece of my childhood. So, like I said, two uncles, starting with Fresh Prince, ending with Fresh Prince. I feel like that's a good tie to the end of my draft.
Great draft.
We're starting to get the gist that if you're a 90s sitcom character, you're either dead or in jail. Because that's what most of our picks are. But I gotta go with and I let me ask you this, Allie, so I can be a little bit of a spoiler. Is your last pick a female?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think you're going to have any of them, but I have 3 crushes here. And if you want to take one of them, you can take it. I have 3 crushes, and I'm trying to pick between them. One's Kelly Kapowski.
No, just take that. It's not mine.
No. Okay. But wait, one is Winnie Cooper.
Yeah, not mine.
She was my first love. And the other one was Sophia Petrello from the Golden Girls. And I'm going to take Sophia Petrello. She was the funniest. She was so funny. That whole show, like I watched the Golden Girls like religiously as a 6-year-old. I did grow up with 2 women too. So like, I'm just saying, I've always lived with women. So my mom and my sister will watch it, and that's why I watched it. I mean, now that's why I watched it until I was 12. I don't need to watch all the reruns daily like I do now, but favorite show. And she was the best. I love that lady.
That's a great pick. That's a beautiful pick.
Thank you.
Mine were none of those.
It'd be funny if she was the only one still alive.
Yeah. And a little fun fact about Golden Girls is that during 9/11, the highest gross show was Golden Girls because people wanted to watch something like better. So on all networks, that was the highest rated show anyway. Fun TV history. My final pick is the woman with a very annoying voice but great clothing. Fran Fine from The Nanny. We love Fran Drescher, and let's go SAG-AFTRA. Let's get that.
I had her on my list. That's a good one.
She's another one that I thought of like that needs to be on this list, but I didn't watch enough. But like any list or anybody you talk to, like that was the one that should have been higher on this. So I'm glad she got in, and I think you got a pretty solid team there. We'll put it to poll here tomorrow, and
We probably could have gone 10 rounds deep on this one.
I really could have went. We could have went deep. Allie would have killed me, but we could have gone deeper. It was a very. I had to just like, because I thought the first like do sitcoms, and I was like, I need to at least shrink it to the 90s because we're gonna run out of ideas for these drafts sometimes, and maybe we'll just do it by decade.
And once we got that South Park was okay, that just opens up like a whole other round right there.
It did.
Yeah, if King of Queens didn't count, I mean, come on, I gotta give me a break here. I gotta give me Cartman at least.
I thought Ryan should have been able to draft.
I think so too. If just amend my pick, let me take Doug Heffernan. All right, I don't need to take Cartman. That's more of a '90s sitcom.
I'll give you Doug Heffernan.
Yes,
he purposely broke the rules so he could
at
the end plug in Doug Heffernan.
Your draft has been accepted by the commissioner, Doug. For
I think it has. Yeah, just dub over the voice and just put a different time of me talking about Kevin James in it instead. We have plenty of tape.
Oh, the best. No one picked anything from Third Rock from the Sun. I was going to do French Stewart just because
he was funny.
How is that guy? Did he get any other roles after that show? But
let me run through just a couple of my admission list. Zach Morris, Ellen DeGeneres, I thought like really kind of belonged here for what she meant to sitcom television and the kiss and the whole thing. But she didn't make it. Martin was funny. Carlton belonged there, I thought. Rachel, Joey, Kramer, shocking. I definitely thought somebody was going to take Kramer.
On the list.
Yeah, then we start getting a little questionable with like Roseanne Connors and Bill Cosby, and people you don't really want to pull for. But in the '90s they were great. But yeah, I thought
didn't get drafted, right? We didn't get a Steve Urkel.
No Urkel. That could have been one too.
All right. Well, Dave, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, please check out Football Guys. Again, great draft, great takes. Good luck on week 9.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Great.